What's good, everyday superpo, where we talk body language, game, relationships, dating, everything in between. One link down in the description take you through to the Patreon where you'll watch me observing, assessing, and teaching you how to read attraction and repulsion body language in real time. We'll watch real life dating footage. That's information you won't find elsewhere. Now, let's have a talk. I have an image before us because this discussion isn't going to be necessarily a gesture of sorts, but more so a lack of movement we're going to talk about. So, in particular, we're going to be talking about a freezing of the legs or the arms, okay? What do you mean by that? Well, what I mean is that a reduction, if not a complete elimination, of movement within the arms, hands, or legs. Okay? To put a long story short, quite possibly, generally, this is going to be a freeze response, and you need to pay attention of such. Have you ever been in a room and somebody is there who makes you feel a little bit on edge, a little bit uncomfortable, and so in the face of what you perceive as a threat, maybe not like a physical threat, or you might not consider yourself scared, but you might be unconsciously, at the least, scared and threatened of this person engaging in communication with you. You just don't want to engage with this person. Yeah? You may find yourself moving a little less. Okay? Your hands, your arms, your legs, you don't want to attract attention to yourself because movement is the counter opposite. And if you move freely, fluidly, and illustrate your words with your hands and movements and gestures, you create a comfortable, open, engaging space in your communications. Whereas when you detract from that and rid of that movement, you hide yourself away from the world around you. And evolutionarily, this might come down to us not wanting to attract the attention of literal predators in the savannah and so on and so forth. Yeah. If your house was getting burgled, you want to make limited movements in order to not capture the attention of that threat. I mean, don't get me wrong. You'd actually be better off making more expansive, explosive, and you know, extra movements in a perfect world. But that's probably not going to be the case. Let's say you are a woman hiding away from this, scary situation. You see where I'm coming from? But with that being said, I'll actually just say on a side note, because of how fascinating and backwards this is, if somebody is charging at you with a knife, right, you will freeze. Okay, it'll engage a freeze response with you momentarily. But if you didn't action that freeze response and you actually looked at them and started running towards them, you would trigger the freeze response in them and they would freeze up. So that's crazy, isn't it? But with that being said, we're not going to talk about that, yeah? So when the hands and the arms freeze, they can be hidden away as well. So you put the hands in the pockets to limit the visibility of the movement, yeah? Place the hands under a table, or, some people might actually literally sit on their hands if you've ever seen that before. It just completely restricts and diminishes any degree of being seen. Yeah? I mean, don't get me wrong, you are still present in the situation, but you aren't triggering the brain of that person you don't want to be seen by. Because movement attracts attention, right? We have a part of our brain, as far as our survival is concerned, we need to pay complete attention to that which moves in our surroundings to ensure that we're safe and sound, right? Entwining your fingers, yeah? But what we're going to talk about is applying this in a sense that it happens in real time. So, if you have a child, which I don't, but I would apply it in this sense. If you had a child and you acknowledge the fact that they were jumping and dancing and rolling around, and a particular individual enters the room and you see their movements diminish, you would have to question why, because what you are seeing before you is potentially a freeze response in the face of a threat. So this is how deep it can be in paying attention to these behaviors, all right? You could argue it was hiding in plain sight, yeah? If we're not freezing, we're taking flight. If we're not taking flight, we're fighting, and the cycle continues as our brain gets, triggered by threatening experience. Yeah? So, let's say this is a good one, actually. This is a good one because this happens. This happens. You get caught doing something you shouldn't do. Let's say you're on the computer at work, yeah, and you're looking at cars. You want to buy a new car, but you shouldn't be. You should be working instead. And your boss just catches you off guard, comes into the room, yeah. You need to quickly click off of that screen, but for some strange reason you don't, because your brain doesn't want to attract attention. Your brain sends a signal to your body saying, don't attract attention. And in not attracting attention, you actually, for lack of better terms, shoot yourself in the foot, because you set yourself up by not removing it off of the screen. So your body actually works contrary to how you should be working. And that is the unfortunate reality of our evolutionary hardwiring, sort of in a combative space with our human conscious thinking mind. Yeah, there tends to be a bit of a disconnect from time to time, and it can create a uncomfortable circumstance when it wants to. Yeah. Effective speaking, effective public speaking, the hands are utilized to illustrate words and dial in points and keep the listener stimulated, yeah? And then, given that individual starts to travel upon a train of thought they find uncomfortable, so they go from expressing themselves in a particular manner, and then the topic of conversation changes to something they're not too comfortable with, you will see them illustrators retract. They won't be as, illustrative anymore. They won't be as fluid with the hand movements and the accentuation and the concentration of what's being said and the message that needs to be dialed in. Yeah? You'll find this with people who are lying. They don't want to be seen. Now, this is good game. A liar doesn't want to be seen because they know what they're doing. Consciously, they know that they're lying. So their body says, shit, I'm a little bit fearful. I'm a little bit frightened of the idea I'm going to get caught here. So you will see them be a more subtle, non-verbally speaking. They won't try to highlight and bring attention to what they're telling you and what they're doing. Yeah, because that movement attracts attention. Okay? The lying mind feels that if we don't express, we will express less non-verbal cues that we're lying, but it's the counter opposite, because it's about paying attention to what isn't there just as much as what is there, right? So you need to pay attention. And not only that, identify these behaviors in yourself, identify this in yourself. I'm sure you can think of particular people who make you feel uncomfortable and how you act in those situations. Yeah. So, quite potentially, it's symbolic of fear, stress. It is defensive because you're not open to the world. You are actually trying to hide away in the world. If you can't escape physically, as far as your surroundings, you will escape via visibility. And yeah, generally speaking, it's negative. I mean, I don't really see how it'd be positive unless you get caught wrapping up a present, for someone. But I guess that's a positive situation, but it's not like it's not a good case scenario for you who didn't want to be caught. So yeah, the point still stands. It's generally 99% a negative, manifestation. With that being said, I'm signing out. So click the link in the description. Peace.